coming out of the music business with your mental health intact is a major, major accomplishment. I see it online, whether I see it here on YouTube or on social media. We've got an unusual situation these days where through social media, we get to see inside people's lives. We get to see people's mental state. We get to see the trolls and and the people that are battling that. And we get to see so much. And look, this is not just the music business, man. We are in a mental health crisis, through society. And, I can only really speak on what my life experience has been. And I will say this. If you've made it through the music business, playing music for a living, or you made it through the Sunset Strip, or you made it through Nashville, or you made it through New York, or you made it through, Los Angeles or Austin, Texas, or Germany, Berlin, Germany, or London, England, or any of you out there in the world that made it through the music business. And I know I've got friends out there in Australia and England and Germany and France. My good friend Pedro in France. And man, let me tell you something. If you've made it this far in the music business and your mental health is reasonably good, man, that is a major, major accomplishment. Man, I see a world that is greatly struggling with mental health. That is why we have all the chaos in the world. That is why we have people divided so deeply. We just, we have a system that feeds into it, that feeds into people's fears and their distrust of everyone. And, especially, and I speak largely on my channel, to the music business, to the musicians. And it particularly, hurts me, affects me when I see musicians struggling. I just, it's a tough thing because I know how hard it is. Look, as musicians, we may have got into the game, dealing with our own mental health issues before we even got going. And I know not everybody has an easy life. And I know we all face struggles, things that we, got from our childhood or didn't get from our childhood, or, we all have our own struggles. And some of us struggled more than others, and some of us may have not struggled until they got into the music business. And then you learned how to struggle. You learned how to survive, fight or flight, whatever you want to call it. Man, but it really hits me hard when I see a musician that I know is going through mental health issues, and there is no help, out there. Look, if you're going to be a musician, the reality is, I don't know of any gigs that have health insurance. I never experienced them. I'm certain maybe if you got to the upper echelon of a touring group and you had a manager that said, "Hey, let's get everybody on a health plan, and hey, let's do this and let's do that." Maybe that exists, but I have never heard of it. And talked about on this channel PTSD from touring. And man, I had a little bit of it, but I know people that have had tons of it. And man, it can be, look, touring can be a very fun thing, and it's a great thing to get experience. And I feel very fortunate and thankful that I got to do it. And I got to see, a little bit of the world and experience new things. I met my wife. I'm very thankful for my experiences on the road, but I have friends that I know went through a lot more trauma and pain than I ever experienced, and they're dealing with it. They're dealing with it every day. And as far as I can tell, they're surviving through it. But man, that doesn't mean it's not difficult. And look, you could have just survived a few years on the Sunset Strip in the music business and be pretty much scarred for life. For me, it skewed my perspective on life, my perspective on relationships, my perspective on partying. All of those things were, shall we say, shaped by my time on the Sunset Strip. And as much as I spent, so much more time, 30 years in Nashville, it was all still shaped by those handful of years, 5 years, maybe it was 6 years, that I did in Los Angeles. I was always reverting back to that. I was always still that wild rock guy that, the party rages on dude, I've always, I've always had that dude inside of me. And, I don't know, man. I don't know how I've survived now that think about it. I don't know how I maintained my sanity. I think they have a thing, and I'm not a mental health professional. So if you need help, please go seek help. But I think, I've always heard this thing about having a strong constitution. And a strong constitution is something they described as somebody that could drink a lot or do something a lot and still maintain their sense of control, their sense of balance, and be able to maneuver situations, shall we say, under the influence. And I've always felt like I was always that guy that no matter what was going on or what craziness we were involved in, I was able to maintain my constitution and go, here's what guys, here's what we need to do. Let's get out of this situation and get somewhere safe. I was always that guy that knew when to shut down the party and, this essentially knew when it was time to go to bed. Of course, there were times where that might have been 5 or 6 in the morning, but I don't know, man. I don't know how I'm able to now. Maybe all those life experiences, maybe all those years in Los Angeles, maybe all those years in Nashville, maybe that helped me keep my sanity. Maybe I kept my sanity because I had to. I had to always know when to put on that button-down shirt and smile and look very non-threatening. And oh yes, yes. Look, uh, everybody here that watches this channel knows me, dude, and hear the wild stories and stuff like that. But when you are given the task of being a band leader on a wedding gig, and you were once that wild, crazy guy that anything goes, dude, this party, dude, it's time to party, bro. When you've been that guy, but all of a sudden you're going, hey, you're band leader this weekend, and you're responsible for 10 guys on stage, And here is the wedding planner's phone number, and here are the specific dances that you're going to have to navigate with the band, and make sure the band can play the songs, and all of this stuff. And man, very, very much so, you could be sometimes dealing directly with the people hiring you. I've had to go on situations where I had a Zoom meeting with the father of the bride, and or maybe it was the uncle of the bride, and discuss things. Immediately, you could be cutting up with your musician friends and telling slightly blue jokes, racy jokes, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of your eye, you see the wedding planner coming up, and you have to immediately, oh, yes, hello, how are you doing? And you have to put on a pleasant, non-threatening, softer voice so that you can, give them the reassurance that you will listen to them, you will execute the plan, the game plan for the night. And they, believe me, these things are completely mapped out. You will get sheets and sheets of schedule. Here is the schedule. At this time, you will do this. At this time, you will do that. Now, just like a tour itinerary, you could call it the book of lies, because everything is subject to change. Everything is subject to change. Depending on how professional, an event is run, it could be severely changed and be completely all out of whack, or it could be run like clockwork. It's 3 o'clock. Do this now. And you know what? You don't you do exactly what they say. You don't buck up against them. It's not like dealing with a club owner that's aggravated, or an aggravated sound guy, or a drunk in the crowd. That's a totally different skill of dealing with people like that than dealing with a wedding planner. A wedding planner is kind of like dealing with your mom, or dealing with your grandma, or something like that, when they've got something they need you to do, and they come up to you, and they don't want to hear any flack, and they don't want to hear any lip, and they don't want to smell any alcohol on your breath. It's a lot like dealing with that. And if you're used to, in my case, I grew up around a lot of women, running a business, and it was always very much come up and, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go do this right now. And you go, okay, I got it. You go and do it, because it's the easiest thing to do is just say, yes, ma'am, and go and do it. Because the minute you try to, well, but what if this, they don't want to hear that. And you know what? There's always a but. There's always an if. But your job is to just be quiet, do what they tell you to do, smile, seem calm, seem happy. No matter what, you've got to put on a smiling face. And that's the tough thing about being a musician. Maybe having to always perform, maybe having to always put on a face. Maybe that's a difficult thing. And when it comes time to take that face off, maybe what we're dealing with, maybe what we're seeing in others is the real self. Man, all I can say is, and I don't want to get into details or call out any names, but I see people that I know online, and I see them struggling, man. I see them going through it. I know what they're going through. And man, it makes me sad. It makes me sad because, I hate to think that the music business did this to them. Maybe people always have these things underlying in them, and maybe just life brings it out. I do not know. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just somebody who notices, somebody who's paying attention to people and what's going on. the crazy world we live in. And, if you've had to navigate the music business or this topsy-turvy world that we live in, man, it could absolutely leave you spun out and crazy. And, all I can say is, man, I hope that if you need help, you get help and you find a way to clear your head and get to where you're mentally healthy again.